Okay, good to see you guys. You know, this is very uncomfortable setting. I'm standing, all you guys are watching. So, but anyway, today I'm gonna give a lecture in the topic of Reverend Myung, sex addict or second advent. Some say that Reverend Moon was a supreme hypocrite, a man who preached on the value of chastity, but privately practiced a life of licentiousness. There are those who said that Reverend Moon could not control his excess sexual drive, and that he fornicated with a countless women, impregnated, ruining the lives of many female devotees. I'm sure you guys are familiar with these critics, right? Some even say that six marriages are shameful tale. I'm sure you also heard about that too. That Satan can rightfully accuse. Are these claims justified? Today's lecture will address this topic. Was Reverend Myung Moon, a sex addict or Lord of the Second Advent? Okay, so let's begin. Before I get into the lecture, I want to talk about this two facts. Can I ask Tejo to read the introduction, 2 points?
Yeah. So the theme of this lecture is that True Father, as the second coming of Christ, conducted the six Mary Providence under God's direct guidance. I view that six Mary's Providence is the evidence of True Father's absolute obedience toward God. This is not a lecture to prove the messiahship of Reverend Moon. The testimony of eyewitnesses, primary sources, provides credible evidence of authenticity. It is the one of the most widely used methods in the Bible. Therefore, I have used the real names of eyewitnesses in this lecture.
Yeah, so this is not a lecture about I'm proving the True Father's messiahship. I as a lecturer, I believe True Father as the Messiah, so I'll assume that fact, and then I'll do the lecture. And then sometimes I'll refer Reverend Moon as True Father, and then sometimes I, refer him as a Reverend Moon. So if anybody who didn't know, we call Reverend Moon as True Father, and then that's you can keep in mind about that. Also, I'm grateful to make this couple people to make this lecture possible. I'm grateful to Carrie Williams and all the brothers and sisters in faith, the community of Sanctuary who are willing to do the interviews to make this lecture possible. And also, I'm grateful to Second King. He gave numerous insight to make this presentation possible. So I'm giving once again thank you to them. So this is the 8 areas of evidence that Reverend Moon, as a returning Christ, went to the path of 10,000 crosses for my salvation. So these are the 8 evidence that I'm going to present today. So can you read the 8?
So number 1 is no pattern of sexual addiction in his life. Number 2, the failures of providential women. Number 3, the testimony of True Father. Number 4, the testimony of True Father's close disciples. Number 5, biblical proof. Number 6, the six Marys from the perspective of the mission of the Messiah. Number 7, the retraction of Jung-Hwa Park's testimony, author of the Tragedy of the Six Marys book. Number 8, True Father's character in the midst of suffering.
Yeah, so we're going to see these 8 areas from today's lecture. I'd like to do the break between number 3 and 4. I want to take a break, and then we can come back and then continue the lecture. Yes, I think that's it. That's good. Okay. So I will go to the next slide. Okay, there's a girl here, and then she's very surprised, and she's like, she's in panic. You know why? I think this is our second generation and third generation's usual reaction when we found out about six Marys. What? There's a six Marys? And like this. So many of second gen and third gen in UC have had a hard time to digest the topic of six Marys. This is seemingly like no one to ask about it. So, we usually search in the internet and Google it, and then they are flooded with the tidal waves of negative information. How are they able to discern between fact and fiction? The Six Marys matter gives us internal conflict not only in our head, but in our heart, right? Let's say there was a guy who was very much respected by many people, but later his death, people found out that he had multiple women besides his wife. Then we will say such a person as a hypocrite, right? In the end, the Six Mary matters make us think that if True Father is such a double-faced individual, we can only doubt whether whether we can actually trust all the good deeds he did on earth, not to mention his messiahship. So that's why you guys are listening to this lecture. I'm sure you guys had this conflict as well. I had this conflict. And then anybody who sincerely believes True Father as the Messiah will have this conflict, and then they have to deal with this matter. So once again, thank you for coming to this lecture. And then I hope that this lecture help you to sort out that internal conflict and then come to conclusion like me. So I brought one question. There's a Jesus on the cross, and how there's a radical different view looking at the cross. Jesus was the political, what do you think? Was Jesus a political criminal in the Roman Empire? A Jewish man, a crazy Jewish man, it's a meaningless death, who self-proclaimed as a Messiah? Or do you see cross as Jesus died for my sin as the Lamb of God? So there's a two radical different view. See, it's the same cross, but we have a radical two different view. So in fact, when Jesus died on the cross 2,000 years ago, so many bad rumor about Jesus was always followed Jesus' disciple. And later, early Christians always had to deal with Jesus, that guy, he died on the cross as a political criminal. He's a dangerous guy, and all these things. He was executed on the cross as the political traitor in Roman Empire. He was called Samaritan. He was called demon-possessed. He was called Satan. He was called as Beelzebul. Numerous terrible names attacked Jesus even in his lifetime. Especially Mary's conception during her engagement period was quite scandalous. In John 8:41, Pharisees told Jesus that we are not illegitimate children. Basically, they were saying that Jesus was illegitimate, but they are righteous. So Jesus was born out of wedlock, but we are so righteous. So they were saying that, right? So they are basically accusing Mary's conception. Mary was pregnant during the engagement time, which is at that time there was people rightfully can stone her to death, right? But if we see Jesus with such a perspective, we would never be able to meet our Lord who gave us life. Likewise, if we judge True Father with the eyes of only secular and negative critics, we could miss the personal experience and eternal life that our True Father gives us. Personally, I see Six Mary as the evidence of True Father's absolute obedience towards God, just like Jesus. Looks like Jesus' crucifixion looked like meaningless death, as one crazy Jewish man just being crucified meaninglessly. Just millions of guys who died in the cross, and it looks like meaningless in the history. But we know when we see Jesus with the spiritual eyes, we do know that Jesus' crucifixion was the perfect sacrifice Jesus offered to Heavenly Father as the total obedience, act of total obedience toward God's will. So personally, I see Six Marys as the evidence of True Father's absolute faith, absolute obedience toward God. This is definitely perspective. There's a definitely perspective difference here, as you can see in the picture. So how can I see Six Mary matters this way, right? So let me explain to you now. So the first evidence that I present is that there is no pattern of sexual addiction in true father's life. Tejo, can you read it?
He led a transparent life that was totally public. He taught his followers to maintain an absolute standard of sexual purity until marriage. In over 40 years of international public ministry, 1970 to 2012, focused in the United States, Korea, and South America, there were no reports of any sexual misconduct.
Yeah, so we actually know this. We learned this as a second gen and third gen, and devotee of Unification Church. This is what we learned, right? His father has transparent life. Father did she spent many hours with the brothers and sisters. His record is 23 hours and a half, and then we hear all this, right? But you might say this. Don't you think there is a possibility that followers hide the fact that he was the sex addict, but somehow he kind of hid the evidence, So some critic might say that. But I would say in his lifetime, Reverend Moon gained millions of followers worldwide and created a movement that was financially prosperous. There is no account of sexual impropriety after Reverend Moon gained international fame and recognition. You can see from the upper left side that was the 1958. Already, throughout the whole Korea, there was 120 churches. So the father, he's in Busan, and he took picture with the brothers and sisters. Second picture in the airplane is 1971, and the father, that was the year that father came to America for the first time. The down left picture is a very famous picture amongst Japanese brothers and sisters. When father was not banned to go to Japan, he was in some kind of park. If anybody know what park exactly it is, please let me know. So father is in the park, and then there's an ocean of people gathered around father. And then the last picture is the Washington Monument, and a lot of people attended to see father because in one way or another, they heard about father, and then they wanted to hear that what father has to say for America. So you can see that father gained the following from around the whole world, but I emphasize once again, there's no account of sexual allegation or accuse for his, even though his religious, his Unification Church expanded into worldwide. Excuse me? And Tejo, can you read the heading?
Reverend Moon's victory over communism message was threatening to leftist-leaning Democratic congressmen. Due to his exemplary personal lifestyle, they could find nothing to accuse him of. Therefore, they used the power of the federal government to unjustly accuse him of tax evasion.
Yeah, right now it becomes very big news that Trump and his sexual allegation, but what's her name? The Stormy Daniel, right? So one of the way to take down the religious and political leader, most common way is the finding those sexual allegation. So guess who did that to father? Washington Post did that. Washington Post, but Washington Post could not find any sexual allegation toward true father in America. When we think that main residence of true father was America and lived in USA for 40 years. That says something about true father. That is why they picked the tax evasion instead of a sexual allegation on father to put true father in prison. And that's the Danbury picture. And most religious leaders with a serious sex addiction become worse when they access more money and more women. When they have access to more women and more money, right? Look at the example of Myung Chung, Joseph Smith, and Mohammed. So the first picture is Myung Chung, and the second picture is the Joseph Smith, and the third picture is Mohammed. Let's see the example of Myung Chung first. Myung Chung became very famous because Netflix did a recent documentary on him, I Am God. So he was basically his group is called JMS. It's a JMS. It's followed after his initial JMS. And his group, actually, he used to be a blessed family. And then he left the church and took the divine principle, and then he made a splinter group. And then the picture in the middle, she looks like Korean, but she's actually a Chinese. She's a person from Hong Kong. And then as the JMS group spread to the China, Hong Kong, she was witnessed, and then she thought she was witnessed, but she ended up being raped by JMS. So this whole thing, the Netflix talk, I didn't watch the documentary, but in that documentary, she was doing the interview and etc. Chung Myung-seok currently wears with a criminal electric monitor as a sex offender. He was sentenced for 28 years under the sexual violence and rape. Currently, he is in prison. He was also imprisoned in Hong Kong because of the sexual violation allegation. But after 4 years, he was imprisoned again, and then he came out, and then he went back to prison. So whenever he go into the prison, the criminal record is always same: the sexual allegation and the sexual violence. He's very known for collecting the pretty woman's followers' picture and bringing to his the selected woman that he selected to his room, and then raping them. There are a couple of sisters who joined our church after they leaving the JMS, and then they're the ones who, told me a lot of things about JMS. But they actually told me they were so fascinated by divine principle, but after they found out that, but they had this difficulty, because divine principle was amazing words, but the Chung Myung-seok, his personal life and his personal speech was very destructive and very weird. So they couldn't kind of sort it out. But after they joined the UC, they realized, wow, true Father is the owner of this word. They can see the difference. So that's the testimony they gave to me. The second example, as they became, their religious authority grows, and as their follower grows, the more sexual act kind of expanded. One of the examples is Joseph Smith. Joseph Smith had 51 wives, and then the Wikipedia records all these women. And then some of them, if you see the graph, that graph shows that the bottom of is 20 plus years of gap. And then there are some of the girl was minor, it's 14 years old. Several girls were 14 years old. The information was too long, so I couldn't bring it. Since these leaders, he grew his power and authority in Mormonism, the number of wife and mistress grew. They cannot stop, or they don't have to stop, because they had absolute power. And then the bottom picture is Brigham Young. There's a university called Brigham Young University. I'm sure some of you know. He also had 56 wives, I believe. Yeah, 650 wives. And then the right upper picture, that's FLDS. It's a Mormon fundamentalist group. And then it's still promoting the polygamy. And then the third example that I want to present is Muhammad. Muhammad is, as you know, he's the founder of Islam. Muhammad is very famous for his deviant behavior, deviant behavior. So he had 11 wives, and then plus sex slaves. His disciple mentioned that he had a 30-man sexual drive. So as Muhammad got older, his authority and number of his followers grew rapidly. He justified having more than 11 wives, but many sex slaves. One incident that he's one of the famous early father of in Islam records that the Alicia, the 6 years old, he had a 6 years old wife. There's Muhammad was 50 years old, and then he took the Aisha, 6 years old wife, and then he had to start to have sex with the Aisha when she was 9, and she was his favorite wife. And then Aisha became adult, and then Muhammad had a sex slave in his tent. So Aisha said, "Oh, don't you think 11 of us is enough?" And then he prayed to Allah, and then he got the permission that Allah told me I can have more wives, so be quiet, shut up, maybe. And then he justified to have more sex slaves. So that was quite scandalous, right? And then he was basically involved in pedophilia, and then his behavior, since he was a perfect prophet, his followers also till now there's a child bride tradition. But in contrast, Reverend Moon inspired millions of women worldwide to dedicate their lives to creating God-centered marriage and the family. You know, we see these pictures. The upper picture is Belvedere, and then he has many, sisters. He was giving speech. He was laughing. He was joking with them. And then the other picture, the black and white picture, on upper right, I believe that is in the Red Hook, UTS area. And then you can see Father is having very good time with the brothers and sisters. So in contrast to the previous 3 religious leaders, Father showed a radical different posture toward the woman. There was no trace of a multiplication of sexual sin. Since these leaders grew their powers and authority in their religion, the number of wives and mistresses grew. They could not stop, and they don't have to stop. They didn't have to stop because they had absolute authority. But true Father was different. Sex addict does not marry his followers in the holy blessing and teach them to be eternal monogamous. And then this is one of the things that also we don't see True Father as a sex addict is because True Father lived with one woman, Han mother, Mrs. Moon. They married for 52 years and had 14 children together. This is not a lifestyle pattern of a sex addict. So with all this reason, I say it with the evidence 1, True Father did not have to have a 6 marriages because of his sexual addiction, like some claims. So the second evidence that I like to present is the failure of a providential woman. This is the part that I'm sure you guys heard a lot in the internet. So let's dive in. There are 4 women's picture I brought from the internet. There are so many rumors. I'm sure some of you heard a lot too. There are so many rumors related to women issue around the Reverend Moon in the internet. But we don't know they are all true, right? But we do know that if they had children, then we do know they actually had a relationship with this particular woman. And these are the 4 women actually had Reverend Moon's children. So we do know they had a relationship with True Father. Today I want to refer Chae Sun-gil, the left corner woman. Chae Sun-gil as a Mother Chae. In Korea, we call her Mother Che. And then the Myung Kim as a Myung Kim, Chesuna as Chesunha, and the Hakja Han as the Han mother. I will refer them with that name. So, society wants to blame True Father, blank blame to True Father, saying that it's all True Father's fault. He is the problem. He was the sex addict, and then that they do the all blanket blame. But, we do know that is, I personally believe that is not fair, or it's not even rational. Because marriage relationship is made with two people, all human beings had a 5% responsibility, and there's no exception for providential woman. So I brought this slide. Mother Cho did not keep the promise she made with True Father. Can you read it, Judge?
Married in May 1944, desecrated and perpetrated violence on Reverend Moon and the church, demanded divorce. True Father waited for 7 years, then allowed her to divorce. But True Father took in Sung Jinim, and his 3 children supported their living and schooling expenses. Later in her life, she rejoined the Unification Church.
Yeah, Sunyeol Cho, whenever there's a service, she brought the pile of poop and then the desecrated the church area. She started beating and then the acting violence inside the church, and then she did the many unbearable thing. Mother Kang also told me that she was time to time got beaten by Mother Cho. So you can tell that she had a very difficult experience with True Father, and then she eventually wanted a divorce, and she was very persistent about it. So Father came to the conclusion to divorce her, and she broke the promise with Father. And the second woman is Myung Kim, and the third woman is Suna Choi. Myung Kim and Suna Choi also did not keep the promise they made to True Father. Myung Kim, she confessed that she had a consensual sex with the Japanese man. She was when she was pregnant with Hee Jin-nim, she was sent to Japan, but she there's a rumor that she was raped by the Japanese man, but she actually confessed during the interview that she was actually had a consensual sex. So when she, what I heard was when she came back from Japan to Korea to meet Father threw a big party that, and then they almost prepared as if she's returning back of True Mother, but as she talked with Father in private before the welcome party, the party was canceled, and then she was considered to be one of just the follower. So what I can I speculate that the talk she had with True Father is instead of she basically confessed to True Father that I had actually consensual sex with the Japanese man, so I fell. And then that's why she couldn't keep the promise with True Father. And then but to be fair, she until her last death, she kept the faith in True Father. Suna Choi, she also, can you read the Suna Choi?
She broke the promise of absolute faith with True Father as one of the 6 Marys. She left the church and demanded money from the Unification Church with her son, Samuel Park.
Yes, so Suna Choi, I'm sure you heard about her son's name, Samuel Park, and then we will deal with Samuel Park a little later. And she promised to True Father that she will have absolute faith in True Father as one of 6 marriages, but she broke the promise with True Father. And then I think one of the things that pains our heart the most is the failure of Hakja Han mother. I once did this testimony about Han mother. I'm a daughter-in-law, and then I'm also a woman in this movement. So I I really respected her mother. I really loved her too. She was always kind to me as a daughter-in-law, as a mother-in-law. So I don't have any personal resentment or vindication toward her. But the reason I do what I do and then pointing these out is not out of some kind of revenge or vengeance toward her, but as a Han mother, as one of the providential women, I'm pointing out the fact. And then trust me, when I do this, it also hurts my heart too. When I attended the UTS, there was the Father's Lifetime Life Course lecture, and then I had to write a paper. And then although it was the class about True Father, I actually wrote a paper on Han Mother, because when I see her path of embracing the six Marys, my goodness, how can a human being or woman can do this? And it really brought me amazing respect toward her. That's why I wrote about Han Mother in the paper. So that much I really respected her. I loved her. But fact is fact, so we cannot avoid presenting. I cannot avoid presenting this fact. So she was Dejo, can you read this?
Blessed with True Father in 1960 and given mission of True Mother. After True Father's ascension, she proclaimed herself as the sinless, only begotten daughter. Teaches that she removed True Father's original sin. Even so, she claims True Father still has a shameful past and is being accused by Satan. She teaches his previous marriage to Sang-Yeol Che was a mistake.
Yes, so she even said that because she had the Sang-Yeol Che married with the Sang-Yeol Che before her, that's why he was condemned to go to Hungnam prison as well. So she said many unbelievable things, and as you can see, she erected her own statue as the symbol of self-worship as well. Revelation 18:7 says how much she had to glorify herself and live deliciously. So much torment and sorrow gave her, for she saith in her heart, I sit a queen and am no widow and shall see no sorrow. So as the Revelation 18 prophesied, she fulfilled the prophecy as whole of Babylon. Then I'm sure you guys wanted to know, so who are the six Marys? Who are the six Marys? Okay, today's lecture is not about who are the six Marys, but I'm sure you guys are wondering about who are the six Marys. I'm not going to spend too much time with this, and then you guys can you can do the asking the questions at the end of the lecture. I will open up the Q&A section so you can ask a more detailed question about it at that time. So six Marys is upper left is a che, Wonbok Che, and then the upper right is a Hakjahan. It's a symbolic mother and daughter relationship. The middle left is Tuksam Lee, and the middle right is Sunha Choi, mother of Samuel Park. And they're actually a physical mother and daughter relationship. And then the lower left is Chungwook Lee, lower right is Kyungjun Lee. They're actually aunt and niece relationship, but this is represent the symbolic sister and sister relationship. Can you read the bottom part, Neju?
How can Christ restore the fallen blood lineage of all womankind? True Father demonstrated God's pattern of restoration through making powerful symbolic conditions his entire life. By having relationship with these faithful women, he restored heavenly love with these special representatives of all womankind.
So if you know True Father, Father always make a symbolic pattern to represent the restoration of God's providence. So True Father demonstrates God's pattern of restoration through making powerful symbolic condition his entire life. For example, we have a true day of all things is upcoming. so in that ceremony, there is the all the representative party comes out and then the bow to true parents. For me personally, I don't believe they're actually bowing to me. Some people actually ask me about it. How do you feel when you actually everybody's bowing to me? But you know what? I really do feel that I'm in the position that I pass by. I die and my position dies, but the true parent's position is forever. So we are like, I believe my position is more like a symbolic. So in that way, I can be representative. At the same time, I'm also in the position of follower. So that's how I see it. But to go to the point back again, all the representative of the whole world bowing to the true parents. So the symbology there is like the whole world is bowed down to the King of Kings, True Father as the Messiah. So True Father established this ceremony as a condition symbolizing the entire world bowing to God and true parents. So that is the six Marys. So in the six Marys centered on Hakjahan, Han Mother, these five women symbolically representing the whole womankind in the world, and then True Father through these six women restoring the whole humankind, whole womankind, to restore the fall of Eve in the Garden of Eden. So some people actually, can you actually read the heading?
Hakjahan understood and accepted the providential course of the six Marys before her blessing.
You might wonder why I say this, but some people speculating, Han Mother is the victim. She didn't know about six Marys, and then when she got married and to True Father, and then she suddenly found out, and then so she was the victim, and then some people actually accusing Father for that. But that is far from true. According to Gyeongja Han, she joined the Unification Church in 1958. She worked in the kitchen in Cheongpa Church, the very first church in Seoul with the Unification Church name. And she also, when Han Mother had a Yejinim, her first daughter, she became the babysitter, and she blessed the 72 couple. This Gyeongja Han, Sister Gyeongja Han, actually told me that before the Lamb of Feast, before the blessing, a True Father had blessed with the Han Mother. For about 2 and 3 years, True Father talked extensive about the Feast of the Lamb. So the Feast of the Lamb will be there, and then the marriage blessing, Holy Marriage will be there, and then restoration of blood lineage will be there, and then the True Mother position has to embrace all these six Marys, this providential woman. So True Father was very honest about upfront, and then he told not only to some women, he actually told the whole entire congregation about this over and over and over. So that's why at that time in 1960s, the Korea was very poor. Douglas MacArthur, he's the one who launched, I don't know how to say it, in Incheon to invaded to break the Korean War, and then to stop the invasion from North Korea. So he did that. It's called the Incheon 상륙 작전 in Korean. Anyway, so he's the Michael Douglas General MacArthur. He actually said after the Korean War is ended, he said if Korea can rebuild their nation within 100 years, I'll call it a miracle. So he knows.
landing operation.
In Incheon landing operation. So he's the general. Thank you. He's the general who led the Incheon landing operation, and that was his comment. This Korea was totally demolished, no existing building, so to speak. And then in that 1960, it was a remarkable thing. Actually, True Father was able to witness a lot of college student, because at that time, anybody who go to college means in 60s, when there's nothing in Korea, anybody who can go to college at that time, especially women, they're actually elite of elite. Yeah, so it's if we don't know the time period, the contents, then context, then we might feel like, why is that the Ewha University and Yonsei University? Why is that so amazing? But we have to understand what was going on at that time. And then father was witnessed this a lot of women from Ewha University and Yonsei University, and some of the professor from the Ewha University, and then that was one of the most prestige or women university in Korea. Even now, it's the same, their whole same status. So the woman from Ewha University was considered to be elite, and they were very smart and capable and filled with the Holy Spirit. They truly believed that True Father, they found the Lord, right? They met the Messiah, second coming. So, but I'm sure, as the devotee, a follower of True Father, they also wanted to become a True Mother too. And many of them were actually the candidates of True Mother. But because True Father was openly talked about the mission of True Mother in the early church, some of them declined. I don't think I can handle that. So one of the example is the Chung An-bak's wife's sister was considered also to be a True Mother, and also the Samuel Park's mother's sister, the person you see here, she's Sunshil, no, not Sunshil Che. She's Sunha Che. Sunha Che's sister was also considered to be a true mother, but they all declined because they felt that it is impossible for them to achieve. Oh, I'm sorry. I was gonna just scroll down. So. Her sister is a Sunshil Che. The whole family came into church, right? So, if you want to know about that in detail, I can talk about that in the little later in the question and answer section. So many of the women actually declined the position as the True Mother. So True Father, as a second advent, had a mission to have 12 sons, later 12 children, to restore the fallen blood lineage. In order to do that, he chose Hak Ja-han. Hong Sun-ae, the mother of Hak Ja-han and mother of Hak Ja-han and Han mother understood this very well and pledged to Father to fulfill her mission to unite with the six Marys. True Father made Han mother as the center woman amongst the six Marys. Later, True Father gave a spiritual blessing to all those six Marys. There's no way Han mother could not have known it. And then you can also see this pictures, and I'm sure some of you saw the first picture is a very famous one, and I brought it from the internet. And then because the woman in his left is Wonbok Che. Wonbok Che is a woman in the upper left. She was actually a professor in Ewha University, so she was able to speak English. So she was considered to be elite of the elite family. So she was well educated. So as you can see, I explained it before that the Han mother and then Wonbok Che symbolize the mother and daughter relationship. So so that's why Father symbolically she put her in her left side. So So this is and then the Wonbok Che is the giving translation, the father's speech when first the father came to America, and then there's a picture, Han mother taking picture with a Sunha Che. So she did know all these women, and then she also promised that she will embrace all these 6 Marys. Okay, and then one of the common question is what about Sammy Park, right? Sammy Park is a son of the Sunha Che. Sunha Che is the middle right woman with the little hair like this. She's the son of Sunha Choi, was born in January 1966. Isn't it already after the marriage of Han mother in 1960, right? So True Father had a blessing with Han mother in 1960, and then the Samuel Park was born in 1966. So then that means he had this son, Samuel Park, is out of wedlock. So that's often mentioned. And Samuel Park was born in 1966, January. So he was born between Injinim and Hungjinim. So Hungjinim was born 1966 October. And then Samuel Park was born 1966 January. Okay, so there's a gap there. And as we discussed the previous slide, that Han mother already knew about 6 Marys. And if she didn't fulfill the mission of lineage as true mother, women from 6 Marys could continue the mission. Therefore, this is my speculation, but therefore, I speculate that around that year of 1966, which was the year of birth of the Samuel Park, Han mother denied her mission, or she showed such a sign. And you might think, you're taking too much side to true father. But you know what? I didn't know how to explain about, I'm just being very honest to you. I know true father had a mission to have 6 Marys, and I do believe true father had a providential reason to have 6 Marys, but I didn't know how to explain about the Samuel Park's existence. But you know what? Since recent comment of Han mother really gave me a lot of insight, because Han mother says, I don't think when we hear about the comments of Han mother, I don't think what I just said was a far-fetched idea, because Han mother says she knew that she was the only begotten daughter from the time of her blessing in 1960. So when she was married, she was only 17 years old, but she knew about the divine principle. She knew about Bible, and she knew about the fact that she was the only begotten daughter. I mean, I'm not making this up. This is from her, out of her mouth, right? Because of that, we could not totally get rid of the possibility for her to say to father, because of that, we cannot totally, get rid of the possibility that she actually told true father, or hinting to father, I'm the one who's saving you. Because, if you have any personal experience with true father, then you will be quickly know, true father's this spiritual sensing is not just a normal thing. When father sees you, then he actually can tell what you are actually thinking. And I personally had several experiences like that. And then one time I was, we were in Nigeria, and then true father, Nigeria was like, I think I was 2010, 2011. Father was touring the whole world. He said, it might be the last time I'm visiting all these nations. So he went to Nigeria, and then everybody, about like 500 people gathered, and then this is Africa. Everything is so expensive. So like before 12, we have to leave the hotel. Otherwise, everybody who are gathering there have to pay extra money and then all that. And then the father has to leave the airplane. His father's airplane has to leave, and all the complicating things. So, these leaders on their father, one by one, went to father. Father, we have to leave within 30 minutes. And father's like, no! And then father chased them away. And then a little later, another leader goes, Father, we really, really have to go. It's 15 minutes. And then it became 5 minutes, right? And then the last sacred weapon was second king, right? So second king went up, and then, Father, we really, really have to go. And then father said, you son of a biscuit. And he was like, he slapped him. He slapped his cheeks. And then second king was like, oh, okay. And then he was like, he didn't know what to do. And then at the same time, true father called me up to the podium, and then he slapped my cheeks too. Yeon, you come out too. And then he slapped. I was so surprised, and I'm like, what did I do? And I was like, so angry, At first I was like stunned. I didn't know what to think of it. So I was like, okay. All I could think about is I cannot cry in front of these 500 people possibly. I cannot. And that's all I thought about, right? And then it was not too bad, but I was like so shocked that father would do that to me when I didn't do anything in my heart. And then it took so father sooner or later after 5, before 5 minutes, he kind of wrapped it up, he did. And then father did say that I don't know when I'm going to come back to this African nation ever in my physical body. So I want to give everything that I have to these brothers and sisters. That's what he said. And then, but at that time I couldn't hear what he said. I just could think about the fact that he just hit me. That's all I could think about. Okay, yeah. So it's like it took about like 1 hour from the hotel, and then where the event held, and then to the airport. And I just pretended I'm sleeping, I don't want to talk to anybody. If I talk, then I might say something bad. And so I was like, I pretend to sleep. And then when we went into the airplane was so small. So in order for father to go to bathroom, he has to pass my seat. So I can't possibly cry in there, right? So then he can see me, right? So I was like, I can't cry. And then I was like, I had an iPad at that time. There was like slashing this ninja fruit kind of thing. I don't even know. I can't remember what it was. So I did that for the first time in my life, 7 hours straight. I was, because I wouldn't turn off my head. Later, my arm was so painful, so I couldn't do anymore. So, and then it was time to refuel the airplane. So we landed on Iceland, I think, at that time. Ireland or Iceland. And then the airplane, airplane landed. And then the true father went out. And then the second king went out with the father. And then true father was like, the meantime, my husband was like so fine, and he was jovious. He was like happy. And then he was attending father. He was attending, he was meeting VIP with true father, and then all that stuff. I was even like angry at my husband too. And then the father was going out, and then my husband was like helping father. And then my husband was like, true father, you are still strong. When you hit me, my cheeks, and that was strong. And he was saying that. So I was like, what kind of husband is this? He's not consoling his wife getting hit. And I was like, so even mad at my husband. And then father was like so happy. Yeah, I'm still strong. And then father's mood completely changed. And then he was so happy. And then when we went to the little like a resting area, and then one of the father's attendee told father, since father's got better, father's feeling got better. Oh, you know what? Even in like a normal family, sometimes the father hits their own son, but they never hit their daughter-in-law. So that was kind of, and then the person said that to his father, and I'm like, why is she saying that? And I was like, trying to shut her up. And then you know what? It might sound crazy. I know it sounds crazy. But when father said what he said after what the staff member said, it really changed me, my world from the hell to heaven. Father, what father said? Father said, I never hit my daughter-in-law. I hit my daughter. That's what he said. I know it doesn't sound so much for you, but it was meant so much to me that, wow, he treated me like his daughter. Okay, yeah, I was kind of petty to holding that grudge for that long. Okay, yeah, I'm better. Okay, yeah, father considered me like a daughter. That's good. And I feel a lot better. And then a couple of days later, we landed in it was in the Cheonagong in Las Vegas, and then we were there, and then I was like cleaning up the Hundoke area, and I was only there, and the father came out from the room. It was like a couple of days after the incident, right? The whole incident, and I was just cleaning, and father, you came out, and then I put the seat, and then and then father just looked at me, and then I'm like, Yeonaya, and then yeah, and the true father said, you can't hold any grudge against me because I hit you. You know that, right? I considered you as a daughter. That's why I did what I did. You know that, right? And then I said, yeah, of course I know. And then he did say, don't hold any grudge against me, true father. Okay? And I said, yes, I won't do that. But after that short encounter with the father, I went back to my room and I realized that I thought everything got okay, but I was actually holding the little grudge against, how can he do that? And like this, right? Still, I was actually holding that without even me knowing. But father could see it. Father could point that out, and then he was like telling me back. And then the many times when Second King and I attended to father, we had to totally away from our children. About 2.5 years, and I can't see my children. And then I have 5 children, and they're still young. So it caused great pain to me. So I was like often, I want to go and see my children. I was like crying inside of my heart. And then the true father, when I became so difficult, when the struggle between father and my children became so strong, father always make me do the testimony. The life of attending true father, how it is. And then I have to do the testimony in front of people. And then that's how father reminded me that why you are here. So, I had so many that kind of experience that father can actually read people's heart. And, the famous story of, Mother Kang was she was, okay, today's the last day. I'm going to quit this unification. I'm going to quit it. And the true father actually read her mind, and then what were you thinking when you passed by that tree? And then the father, kind of pointed out her, he could read her head, right? And then one brother told me that, Hunsa님 actually told me about this. A lot of, when father was alive, a lot of this, professors and famous people come in front of father. And then they just petrified in front of father, and they can't say anything. They speak well. Their prestige. They were treated as like, okay, you guys are, people. Everybody, wherever they go, they treat them well. But in front of father, they couldn't say anything. They were like, they just shut their mouth, and then they just sit in front of him with their putting their head down. The reason being is. He said, Hunsa님 said, whenever he meet these people, they think they're, they have a chip in their shoulder, right? And then the father actually can see their sin. And then he points out one person, and then you committed adultery, and then he actually can tell the whole backup story about it. And then everybody's like, whoa, how did he know that? Only, the very close friend knows that. And then they are like, they also have a sin. So they are like, they shut their mouth, they're just... So what I'm telling you is, going back to my original point, if a Han mother actually thought that she is the begotten daughter and she did it all, and then she's the one who saved her father from the beginning of the blessing of the lamb, the marriage of lamb, then there's no way father will not know that and chastise that. So, this is, I'm telling you again, this is my speculation. I'm not lying about it. But knowing father, if Han mother had such a thought and such a, hinting of that kind of thought, true father can only reconsider her to be one of the 6 Marys, not the center. So it's this is my explanation. You can take it, you can leave it, but this is how I see Samuel Park's matter. And then I do believe after 1966, Han mother really realized that, wow, okay, father will have other children beside me from the 6 Marys if I don't live up to stay faithful to true father. And then Han mother decided to have 12 children, and then pledged to have absolute faith to true father, and the true father forgave her, and that's how I see it. And then some people were asking if, these sons are very important, why he would send Samuel Park to Poi Park's family. They were asking that. But I do believe Samuel Park was sent to Poi Park's family by Han mother, not by father. Because when he sees the previous sons, he kept all the sons under his wing. He didn't send anybody to other family. But in Samuel Park's case, instead of a true father sent him to Poi Park's family, I believe Han mother sent him to Poi Park's family. Wasn't Han mother minor when she was blessed with true father? So this will be a simple question. Some people ask these questions and accuse father to have sex with a minor. But this also have to be explained in the given situation in Korea in 1956 and 1950s and 60s. It was not uncommon for Korean women getting married very early. For example, my mother's side grandmother married when she was 17. She's almost 90 years old. According to my mother, she wanted a boy to be drafted as a sex slave to Japanese army. So that's why at that time a lot of women married very early, and 17 was considered to be adult at that time to the given situation of Korea. And then if Han mother is failed her mission, what about her son? Can you read the contents?
Although the Han mother failed her mission, true father completed his providential mission as the victorious king of kings. True father anointed his successor, Yeon, in 2008 and proclaimed the unity of Cain and Abel in the 4th dimension registration ceremony on June 5th, 2012.
True father, proclaimed that he fulfilled it all, and then true father proclaimed the unity between Cain and Abel and his heir and successor. Just like a divine principle explains, if only Eve fell, the restoration process will be much faster. The failure of a Han mother does not affect the victory of a true father as a second advent and the heir and then successorship, but it would make the process of coming of Cheonilguk a little slower. Okay, the conclusion of the tragic failure of Hak Ja-han and Providential Woman. The Messiah had the mission to restore the godly lineage on earth. Satan knew this providential mission and used all the weapons to attack and destroy the mission of true father by tempting Han mother. Primarily because the Han mother could not accept her role as head bride of Christ, she broke her absolute love promises to the Lord. She could not accept that the sixth Mary providence was a necessary condition required by God. We had seen the failure of a providential woman in the history, including Han mother. They broke the absolute love promise with the Lord and could not bear their 5% responsibility. So number 3, evidence true father, the sixth Mary as the evidence of true father's absolute obedience toward God is testimony of true father himself. And then can you read this?
In the 1980s, Reverend Moon spoke to brothers and sisters at his home in East Garden in response to the Washington Post accusing him of sexual impropriety. In his speech, he spread his left and right arms to both sides and made a shape like a cross in front of people and pointed to his reproductive organ. He said, "I had known the deep, sorrowful, and painful heart of God throughout history of humankind because of the fall. Do you think I, who knew God's deep sorrow, had 6 Marys because I couldn't control my sexual desire? I bared the cross of love."
Yeah, in this 1980s, as the Unification Church spread, and then a lot of young people joined the church. Left-leaning newspaper, Washington Post, actually made a whole article, big article about 6 Marys. And then the true father himself actually asked the brothers and sisters to come to East Garden, and he explained about 6 Marys just like that. So true father, true father said this was not, I didn't do this out of my lust, and then I didn't do out of my own desire. I did this because I had to fulfill the restoration process throughout the history of humankind. So that was a father's direct explanation. So I want you to think about it. Okay, so we've been here about like 1 hour and a half already. Is it 1 hour and a half? 1 hour, almost 1 hour and 10 minutes. So we'll take a break and then we'll do the next half lecture 5 minutes later. Okay. 시작하도록 하겠습니다. So, okay, let's begin. And what language am I on? Okay, number one. Okay, English. Okay. I gotta press the button. Okay. Let's go. Okay, so we'll begin the second half of the lecture. Is Reverend Moon, sex addict, or second coming? So fourth evidence that I present 6 Mary as the evidence of true father's absolute obedience toward God is done by close disciples, testimony from close disciples. So this is testimony from Miho Panjer. Miho Panjer was the personal assistant of Reverend Moon for 10 years. Can you read the contents, Tejo?
From 1976 to 1986, Miho served True Father and the Han Mother as their personal servant at East Garden, their primary residence in America. Miho, a massage therapist, regularly gave both Reverend and Mrs. Moon massages as well as cleaning, cooking, washing, organizing, etc. She has testified that she never felt even the tiniest trace of a sexual hint from True Father.
Yes. And then the next testimony is a testimony of Yeon Moon, myself. Can you read that?
As the youngest daughter-in-law of True Father, Yeon lived in the adjacent room of True Father from 1997 to 2002. There was never any signs of strange or unusual situations regarding women. From 2010 to 2012, Hyungjin and Yeon Moon traveled with True Father to support his international missionary work in Africa, Europe, the United States, and Korea. During that time, she said, except when father was bathing or sleeping, they spent all of their time together. Their schedule was true parents' schedule. Once again, she testifies that true father related to her and all women he came in contact with as his daughters. There was never any indication of sexual misconduct.
Yes, I lived the room right next to true parents for 5 years with the 2 children, Shimpal and Shimman. It was a very nerve-breaking experience because if they cry a little bit, they show up, So I'm like, I can't possibly make them cry. So I was like always holding them, and then I do remember that. And then true father visited our me and my children's room many times when the second king is there, and then he was playing with the little Thomas and then the rail, and then they're playing together like this. My children and true father played together. So that's my testimony, and then the third testimony is from the testimony of Sang-Soo Lee. Can you read it? Thank you.
Sang-Soo Lee was the vice head of the security team in the fallen Chunjungung. After True Father's helicopter accident in 2008, his mobility was compromised. Lee was given the responsibility to personally assist Father in helping him stand, walk, etc. He was close to Father and was together with him during his last moments on Earth.
The picture you see on the right side is the helicopter crash incident in 2008. The Sang-Soo Lee was in the helicopter, and then he was sitting right behind the True Father. So he was he was very close to True Father, and then so he can see True Father directly, even sometimes, while he's sleeping, he's there. So he's that kind of person. So let's see his testimony.
When I was serving True Father closely at the palace, I had dinner together with someone from outside the church. He was telling the story of True Father's 6 Marys and his complicated relationship with women before and after the holy marriage. I could not stand listening to the story. I wanted to leave. Even though I tried to explain that True Father is not such a person, he did not listen and continued to talk. Perhaps he was trying to ease the burden on his heart by telling me the story. I told him to stop, but he kept on going without eating. In the end, I was left with complicated thoughts, and I could not shake them off from my mind.
Let's continue.
A few days later, True Father noticed the burden on my heart and quietly spoke to me when I was alone. He must have thought that this burden could become a seed of disbelief if not properly cared for. He really surprised me. How did he see through the difficulties I kept deep in my heart? When True Father spoke, I was grateful but half afraid. He said, "Do you think I am wearing this rag because I could not control my lust when I promised to save mankind? I would put on all sorts of filthy rags to give you new clothes. As the first perfected groom of mankind, in order to save all the brides, I have to clean them up through indemnity in accordance with God's teaching and command. I have done so in order to cease such a history of blood exchange, knowing the world would not understand it."
It continues.
"If I told you such a history, you would not be able to face True Father because you, as my child, would feel very sorry. But I saw a shadow in your heart, so I am speaking to you. Do not misjudge Father just because he is silent. It's because I love you. I didn't tell you on purpose, lest you feel sorry for me. I never hide Heavenly Providence out of shamefulness. True Father would be glad to put on even filthier rags if it was for his children. Now that I have sorted out all the rags, you must become an absolute couple, centering on absolute sex, and become a true filial piety who establishes an absolute family. That is True Father's last request."
Yes, this is the testimony from his close disciple about the True Father, who he really is. Now, you might ask, is it really possible for an individual to overcome sexual desire and give oneself to the cross of love for the providence of God? Can a human being be that selfless and good? We heard about the explanation about 6 Marys and all that, but can a human being trust it that much? Can a human being can that unselfish? Is that possible? So let us find some clues in the Bible. So evidence 5 is 6 Mary as the evidence of true father's absolute obedience toward God. We can find those evidence from biblical proof. Let's see it. In Bible, we see a lot of sexual promiscuity. We might say, oh, maybe Sodom and Gomorrah, that might be the example of sexual promiscuity. But we see it from Abraham, Isaac. Let's see.
Abraham received material blessing after he sent his wife Sarah to other men. Genesis 12:10 through 20, 13:2, 20 through 21 through 18.
So he sent his wife twice to different men, two different men, two powerful men. One is the Pharaoh and one is another wealthy man. And then, but the odd thing is he has so much material blessing. I understand material blessing is not always the spiritual blessing, equal as a spiritual blessing. But in Old Testament, material blessing actually symbolized the spiritual blessing as well. So in that context, the fact that he had a material blessing also by sending, it's like a seemingly very promiscuous act by sending his wife to different men. He was blessed, and there's a little odd result here. So can you read the second one and everything? Yeah.
Isaac sent his wife Rebekah to King Abimelech. Genesis 26:7 through 13. Why? It was to restore the process in the Garden of Eden when the archangel took Eve from Adam.
See, many the Christian pastors' explanation about Isaac and then the Abraham sending his wife to different men when they are actually married, and then saying that, oh, this is my sister, and like this, right? So they're like, oh yeah, Isaac learned this bad behavior from his father. That's why he did what he did. But true father explained it differently. True father explained it. This is the restoration process in the Garden of Eden, because the archangel took the Eve first in order to restore this process. By Abraham and Isaac from the God's side man to send his wife to the archangel and taking back, and he trusted that God will send this woman back from the archangel, and then that trusting relationship between God and then the Adam position person, which is Abraham and Isaac, that made the restoration process possible. True Father taught us. The second example, sexual promiscuity in Bible, is the story of Tamar in Genesis 38. The Genesis, the last part of the Genesis is all about Joseph, right? How Joseph was, became a slave, how he was amazing, and how he was this and that, became a slave and all that. But all of a sudden, it was a continuation of the story of Joseph. All of a sudden, Genesis 38, bam, there is a story of Tamar comes out, story of Judah comes out. And then it seemed very odd that that story is just stuck in the middle of Joseph's story. And then the story goes like this. Judah, he's the fourth son of Jacob. Jacob? Okay. No, not this Jacob, but the Jacob. Esau and Jacob, right? Esau and Jacob. And then the Isaac's son, Esau and Jacob. And then Jacob had how many sons? 12 sons. That's right. 12 sons. Yeah, 12 sons and one daughter, right? Tina is his daughter's name, right? He knows his daughter's name. Okay, no. Let's not confuse. Okay, this is Jacob. Judah is the fourth son of Jacob. And then this Judah has three sons. Or Onan and Selah. So he had three sons. So Tamar was actually married to Judah's first son, El's first. So he's married, and then somehow El's behavior during their consummation was very God was not happy. So the first son died. God hit him and he died. And then same thing happened to the second son, Onan, when they had a sexual relationship, and God was not happy to see that. So the second son died. So he spilled the seed. Thank you. So he died. And then Judah was like, he was in deep sorrow. And then if my youngest son have a relationship with my daughter-in-law, cursed daughter-in-law, with the Tamar, then he might die. So he was like in this very, he didn't like that idea. And then in Middle Eastern tradition, they had this tradition. The first son died, and then the first son's lineage is carried on by second son. By second son have a sexual relationship with the first son's wife. So that's what's going on here. So Tamar was well aware of this, and then Judah said, "Oh, you know what? My third son Selah is kind of young, so you go back to your home, and then you go back to your father, and then wait there. When Selah became older, I will let you know. We'll call you back." And then she waited, but the Judah never called him back. So what she can do? You know what she did? This comes out in Genesis 38. She disguised herself as the prostitute. You can see in the picture. And then she hid her face. And then when Judah came to do some work on his lamb, and he disguised herself as a prostitute and slept with Judah. And then she was pregnant. And then she asked Judah, if somebody said, can you give me some kind of a gift or sign of a token that I had one night with you? And then Judah gives some kind of staff, I believe, and then the symbol of it represents his tribe kind of thing. So later on, she is a widow, and her belly is becoming big, and then when she's a widow, if she slept with somebody else besides his Judah's lineage, that's disgrace. That's eligible to be stoned to death. That was a situation at that time. And then Judah called her over, and then who did you sleep with? How can you get pregnant? And then she showed a sign, the staff that he gave to her, and then he knew, whoa, it was me that man, I'm not going to say, okay. That bad man is me. And then the story goes on. But the interesting thing is, this is very weird thing. I have this faith application Bible, study Bible. It's like this thick, right? And then in this Bible, there is a in-depth study about the biblical figures. And then they talk about everybody in the Bible, but somehow they conveniently skip over Tamar, because it's kind of so hard to explain about Tamar. It's like, what's going on? And they conveniently skip her. So she's like a very controversial topic, even in Christianity. They don't know how to explain her. But the more interesting thing is that she became one of the 5 women in Jesus' genealogy in Matthew. So clearly she was the blessed beyond what we can imagine, right? As a insignificant woman in Genesis time, to become one of the women to be included in the Jesus' genealogy is like a huge thing. That's like you can't expect a bigger blessing than that. And let's hear what True Father has to explain.
True Father said, if you can understand the course of Tamar, you can understand his life course. In order to continue the lineage of God, Tamar risked her life, her dignity, and her honor. Why? Because Eve gave her life to substantiate the lineage of Satan in the Garden of Eden.
Yeah, so True Father said, if you understand Tamar, he will understand me. That's True Father's words. So what True Father is saying is, I understand in secular people's eyes, what she did is totally wrong. What she did is looks crazy. But from the God's perspective, she threw away all the possible things that she has, and then she only focused on the continuation of God's lineage. That's why Tamar is an amazing woman. If she failed this mission, she could have, she could be killed, and then she has nothing to say. But she risked everything. Her life, her dignity, her honor, her parents, and everything you can possibly think of. And she just only focused on leaving behind the lineage of God. That's why True Father said, if you understand Tamar, you can understand me. And then we see the 5 faithful but licentious women in Jesus' genealogy. It comes out in Matthew chapter 1, verse 1 to verse 17. And then, can you read this?
So, Matthew 1, 1 through 17. Tamar, Genesis 38. Rahab, Joshua 2, 9 through 11. Bathsheba, Samuel 11 and 12, Ruth 1 through 4, Mary, Luke 1, 46, 55. But these 5 women were blessed by God. They all cherished God's command and his words before their honor, reputation, and life.
Yeah, so this is the 5 different women. Because of the time restriction, I will skip over their detailed explanation about them. But, we hear many things about these women, but these women seems like they are very sexual, they conducted a sexual immorality, but when you actually hear their words in Bible, it's such a beautiful, faith-filled, we can actually tell they are not just ordinary women, but they are really faith-filled women. We'll read these Bible verses and then see what kind of woman they are.
So in Rahab and Joshua 2, 9 through 10, and said to them, I know that the Lord has given you this land, and that a great fear of you has fallen on us, so that all who live in this country are melting in fear because of you. For the Lord your God is God in heaven above and on the earth below. And in Luke 1, 47 through 55, my soul glorifies the Lord, and my spirit rejoices in God, my Savior.
Rahab was a prostitute, right? In the Jericho, in the castle of Jericho, and then she became the spy, basically, go against the whole tribe, and then help the Israelite. And then Mary also, she was impregnated during the engagement time. Engagement at that time was considered as a first marriage. So it is that they were, technically they were married. They said it's engaged, but it's technically marriage, because if you get pregnant during the engagement time, woman can be stoned to death. So it was a very radical act at that time, that it was a seemingly impossible act. It was very immoral behavior that the woman can do at that time. But despite of that, they actually, put the God's lineage before their life. And then this is Matthew 25, verse 1 to 13. 1 bridegroom and 10 brides. 5 brides went into the room of the bridegroom at night. Should we read this passage?
The parable of the 10 virgins. At that time, the kingdom of heaven will be like 10 virgins who took their lamps and went out to meet the bridegroom. 5 of them were foolish and 5 were wise. But while they went off to buy it, the bridegroom arrived. The virgins who were ready went in with him to the wedding banquet, and the door was shut. Matthew 25, 1 through 10.
So there was 5 virgins, but the 5 of them did not prepare the oil in the lamp, but 5 of them prepared. So ones who prepared the oil, the bridegroom opened the door and then they let them in. And then as you can see, the depiction of this picture, the bridegroom obviously represented Jesus, right? The Christ. And then the 5 virgins went into the room at night to bridegroom. Okay, so I will just leave the imagination behind your up to you. But if the 10 women actually prepare the oil, then all these 10 women will get into the bridegroom's room at night in the honeymoon time. So the next one is, does Jesus have millions of wives? And we will see this example in Catholic Church.
In the Catholic Church, nuns hold a special ceremony to pledge themselves as consecrated virgins, choosing to give themselves to Jesus as brides. Nuns who go through this ceremony believe that they are married to Jesus and wear a wedding ring, symbolizing chastity towards their husband, Jesus. Do they all become Jesus' brides when he returns?
That's something to think about, right? God's will does not necessarily fit into our moral framework. God asked that Abraham to sacrifice his son Isaac, Genesis 22. Think about it. God, in the Moses time, when we know that God is the same before, past, present, in the future, right? So if that's the case, if God hates the child sacrifice, God would hate that before Moses' law, because it's same, throughout the forever. He would hate child sacrifice. Then why would he ask Abraham to do the child sacrifice? And his only son, when he had this son, when Abraham was 100 years old, right? So it was such a precious son, but God asked Abraham to do the sacrifice. So we do know the story, Isaac lived, and then there's a lamb, and then there was a sacrifice with cancer, and all that. But the fact that God asked is sometimes it just does not fit in our moral framework. Second is 5 women in the lineage of Jesus Christ, the genealogy. See, this woman, I didn't explain about the other woman, Rahab as the prostitute, Ruth as the Moabite, so she's not even Israel woman. And then the Bathsheba actually, she kind of knew, right? Her husband was conveniently disappeared. She's not a fool. She kind of knows, right? And then the King David actually, after he had a sexual relationship with her, he sent her back when General Uriah came back from war. You go ahead and then consummate with him, so that my sin can be covered up. So she kind of knew there's something going on between King David and Uriah, her husband, but she stuck around King David, and then although she knew that he's basically her husband's murderer. So, but how can she do that, right? We can say, she found the bigger fish, King David. Yeah, somebody might say that. But the interesting thing is, Father's explanation is Bathsheba. Basically, Father said the same explanation that he gave to Tamar to Bathsheba. Bathsheba chose the king's lineage, the God's lineage, before her personal own sorrow and then personal affection or whatever she dealt with. I'm not saying Father is endorsing this behavior to anybody, but Father was explaining this was the restoration process in Garden of Eden. And then I explained about Mary, and then who's the last woman? Ruth. Also, and then Tamar. Tamar was also, we explained about her behavior, she had a sex with her father-in-law, and that was not considered to be, ethical thing at that time too. So we can see all these women actually had to transcend, in a way, the moral framework of our current time, and even at their time. So God's will does not necessarily fit into our moral frame. Bible repeatedly tells us a story that we cannot explain with the human logic. We have to see them as the restoration process of Garden of Eden. Then we can actually understand. And then the seemingly impossible to understand stories like these 5 women's stories, and then the Abraham's sacrifice story can be understood. The evidence 6 Mary as the evidence of a true father's absolute obedience toward God is the 6 Mary from the perspective of a mission of a Messiah. Can you read it?
Jesus said to the Pharisees, "You belong to your father the devil." John 8:44. Since the human fall was sexual, it must be restored through the opposite sexual path. In the course of the fall, human beings received the fallen lineage. In the course of restoration, then, there must be conditions made to physically engraft humankind into the lineage of Christ.
Jesus recognized the Israelites. They believe they are chosen people, right? We are, I'm different than you guys, Moabites, Canaanites. I am different from all you guys. We are chosen people. But Jesus told them, you are the lineage of you belong to your father, the devil. Basically, you inherit the devil's lineage. That's what Jesus is telling them. And then the Christ comes to restore this fallen lineage into God's lineage. In building his kingdom, God will establish his lineage through absolute sex. And let's hear about what exactly absolute sex is. We usually think absolute sex is an opposite concept of free sex, but it is quite different from the reality when we hear Father's words.
Absolute sex is not an opposite concept of free sex. Absolute sex is a sex where God is the absolute owner. Absolute sex means upholding the original ideal creation of God. In other words, God's lineage. The 5 women in the lineage of Jesus gave up the moral standard of the world, even though they themselves did not know completely at that time to keep the lineage of God.
Some say that true Father taught us about the absolute sex, but he destroyed the absolute sex standard by having 6 Mary providence. However, we should not see the absolute sex in the eyes of the world. The absolute sex is the sex that it was lost in the creation. In other words, it is God's lineage. In that sense, 5 women in Jesus' genealogy did the absolute sex. Isn't it interesting? Yeah. The restoration involves heavenly sexual act. If the root cause of the fall was a fallen sexual act, the way to restore humanity back to our original state before the fall is through heavenly sexual act. So, I'm sorry it's in Korean. I didn't have enough time to change it. But if I explain it, the picture, if we have the original mind, the originally created human being, but it fell and inherited the fallen lineage, Satan's lineage, and we became the Satan's children. So this fallen human being, in order to for this fallen human being to become the restored children, the Messiah has to bring the God's lineage and engrafted us, and then he make us restore and then make us reborn into God's lineage. So then we can become the full God's lineage. So Messiah is the one who brings the God's lineage to the humanity. So basically, through 6 Marys, Father restored all the position of a woman from the daughter, true wife, true mother, true grandmother, true queen, and then the bride of Christ level. So, True Father 6 Mary's providence is a process of taking back God's lineage that was stolen in Garden of Eden. So we should not judge it with the world standard. Only the returning Jesus goes this course. So can we?
In order to restore the lineage of all the women in the world, the 6 Mary providence was something that the second coming had to go through. However, it is the course only the returning Jesus had to navigate. True Father finished this restoration process of lineage. No need to be done again. Based on the victorious foundation of True Father as the second coming through the 3-day ceremony, we are engrafted into the true olive tree as restored Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden.
You know, we do believe, Second King and I do believe the 6 Mary was the necessary process to restore the lineage of God. Second King also emphasized that this process don't have to be repeated in the second generation. Second King himself don't have to repeat this process. True Father already finished this process, and we are very grateful that he has done it, and then we can be part of the, God's lineage. So, yeah, this question comes out a lot, so I wanted to re-emphasize it again. In the Bible, there's a woman, Mary from Bethany. She's a different Mary from Mother Mary. She's a Bethany Mary. She has this alabaster oil, and then the alabaster oil is so expensive. It's like a 4 ounce is like $30,000, so it's very expensive, right? So it's like a 1 year wage of the normal worker, right? And then the Mary from the Bethany actually break that jar, and then she poured that oil with some gospel says from the oil from the head she poured oil, or some gospel records that she poured it into his feet. And then there's a little difference between the Gospels, but in John it says the setting of her pouring that oil is it was the party of Nazareth. Nazareth was he was dead, and then Jesus brought him back to life after 3 days of his death, right? And then everybody wanted to see Nazareth, and what's going on? He's actually alive. And then there was a big rumor, and then Nazareth was there, and then Mary from the Bethany was the sister of Nazareth, so she was obviously there, and then helping the party and all that. And then Jesus was sitting, and then she went over. And then she poured the alabaster oil on his feet, and then she wiped the oil with her hair. Okay, so that was the whole setting. And think about it. It's a very weird kind of scene, because Jesus is unmarried. The Mary from Bethany is not married, and a bunch of men is around in the party, and then she's bending her body and then to the ground, and then she's wiping that oil with her hair. It's just it's very unusual thing, because at that time, the men and women in Jewish society is very much segregated, and they don't, unless they're married, they're not kind of together, right? But she's doing that, and then I'm sure that was that's kind of weird behavior, especially in 2,000 years ago in Jewish society. But it's interesting, what Jesus said about her is very interesting. Matthew 26:10 and 13, she said, "Be aware of this," Jesus said to them. "Why are you bothering this woman?" Because all the disciples says, "Do you know how expensive that oil is? We should sell that and then help poor." And then they say all that. And then Jesus said, hold on, don't bother her. And then he said, verse 13, "Truly I tell you, wherever the gospel is preached throughout the world, what she has done will also be told in memory of her." And that's what Jesus said. And when I think about the 6 Marys, I actually think about her. This Mary from Bethany, I think about, because she's a devotee of Jesus, and then when even Jesus' disciple didn't understand. This happened a day before Jesus entering into temple. the temple in Jerusalem, and a day before. So it's a Palm Sunday. A day before Palm Sunday, this happened, and then at that time, Jesus' disciples did not know that Jesus would be crucified. Even though Jesus was hinting here and there, that they actually, it didn't register them, and then they were just fighting over who's going to sit the right seat of Jesus. And they're kind of fighting over the seat, and then that was their status. Where are you going? Don't go. Can I go? And that was the disciples' status, but disciples, level. But this woman, Mary from Bethany, you know what she did? As she poured the oil into his feet, Jesus, in some other gospel, it says she's actually mourning about my funeral. So she actually knew that Jesus will die soon. When Jesus said none of his disciples knew about it, this Mary from Bethany knew. So when I see these 6 Marys, they are not dumb women. I told you some of them are professor of UI University, and they are most of them are from very wealthy and well-educated. They have a well-educated background. So they have anything to gain, so to speak, to be one of the 6 Marys, except the spiritual merit that they build, and then they participate in the God's providence, except that they don't have any worldly benefit by being one of the 6 Marys. But they participated. Some of them failed, some of them made it to the end, but in the end, they had a posture of the Mary of Bethany, I believe. They're willing to break that alabaster oil. It's $30,000. That's okay. Jesus comes once in a lifetime, and that they had that kind of posture. So that's something I wanted to, tell you. And then the evidence 7 is this evidence 7, 6 Mary as the evidence of true fathers. Absolute obedience toward God is the number 7, is the retraction of Chung-Hwa Park's testimony, author of the Tragedy of 6 Mary book. All the 6 Mary thing, even the name 6 Marys came from the Chung-Hwa Park's book, The Tragedy of 6 Marys. I read this book in English. I read this book in Korean. It's a quite scandalous and very it paints father very infamous way, so I don't recommend to read it. But he actually Chung-Hwa Parks actually he taken back what he wrote in 6 Mary, Tragedy of 6 Mary, and wrote a book called I Am Apostate. So this is the background of Chung-Hwa Park, the author of the Tragedy of 6 Mary.
In February 1949, Chung-Hwa Park was witnessed to by True Father while still a prisoner in Hungnam prison camp. After being freed by UN forces in October 1950, Park broke his leg. Father carried him on his back and pushed him on a bicycle all the way to freedom in South Korea. Throughout his life, he repeatedly left the church and rejoined. Point of the book. Myung is Satan and an apostate. He had sex with many women, followers, including married women, and destroyed the family.
Yeah, so that is the point of the book, and then that book became very scandalous, and people don't know that he actually repented and retracted his statement in that book. And then let's see his motivation we will hear from the. But yeah, that's the allegation he does. But let's hear truth from the author himself. Testimony of Chung-Hwa Park. He did this testimony after he wrote the book I Am Apostate in November 18, 1995 at Tokyo Church.
I know that I am coming near the end of my life, so I gathered up my courage and wrote, I am an apostate. As a kind of last will and testament, when I wrote Tragedy of the 6 Marys, I felt that Reverend Moon had betrayed me. Just the thought of Reverend Moon, even at night when I was asleep, would make me jump up and want to take an axe and smash his head open. You can tell from the fact that I could say something so incredible, that is, to mention the possibility of killing the Lord of the Second Advent, that I didn't understand the principle very well then. My heart was filled with loneliness, compounded by poverty. I felt abandoned. I felt betrayed. So I decided that I would kill Reverend Moon and then kill myself, and went to the headquarters church with some dynamite I took from the mine. When I was in this position, Mr. Omduk Moon helped me very much. At a time when I was drowning in despair, he introduced me to his younger sister. This was before the beginning of the blessings, but I committed my second mistake after Kyungju. But I refused to understand that these were my own mistakes. Instead, I felt that they were results of Reverend Moon's having abandoned me. I felt that he had forced me into betraying God's will. My heart was filled with resentment against Reverend Moon for having betrayed me. In addition, I was tempted with a large sum of money, so I wrote the book, Tragedy of the Six Marys. I see how even an apostate such as myself is received by you so warmly when I repent and return to the will. Even if there are Japanese members who have done evil before God and have committed apostasy, I'm sure that there is no one who has done worse things than me. I can testify with certainty that in the same way that I have been able to return to God's will, there is a warm love in God's will that lets any of the many people who have joined and then left the Japanese Unification Church in apostasy can return. Look at me. Look carefully at my face. I'm 83 years old, and yet I look like a young man. Once I got rid of all that hatred and animosity, my heart was filled with the grace of God. I've never been so happy. True love has made me this young.
So this is Mr. Park's testimony, and then in the testimony we can actually understand why he wrote the book. He was in a miserable situation, and somebody offered the money. That was the motivation. And then we can, I'm sorry to say this, but we can also see that he was very unstable individual. You know, things like he committed a mistake. It seems like he was saying it was before a blessing I made a mistake. So it's kind of pointing that direction that he actually committed a sexual relationship. I don't know, it's just me, or you might feel the same way. So he basically made a mistake before the blessing, and then he is, and then he blames True Father for his mistake that he committed. So that kind of, when we see that kind of thing, that, oh, he's not a really healthy individual, and then he's not really taking responsibility for his mistake and his fault. So this Mr. Park's testimony was done in Japanese and was translated into English. So I'm sure there could be some like a wording difference, but basic contents are same. And unfortunately, Mr. Park wrote the book I'm Apostate, and he left the church again and criticized True Father and died. But we can clearly see in his testimony how happy he was when he returned back to True Father's authority and testified True Father as the Messiah and his Lord, right? And then, but since he was very unstable individual, what happened to the end is very tragic. But he had, in some moments, he had his true conscience speak to him, and then he would speak such a testimony. And then not many people know about him writing I'm Apostate, and then to do such a testimony to brothers and sisters. And some say he became very resentful toward True Father because True Father chose to work with Pohi Park closely instead of him. And then the last evidence, Six Mary as the evidence of True Father's absolute obedience toward God, is number 8, is True Father's character in the midst of suffering. Have you ever heard of people saying that, oh, everybody's good. Everybody's okay, when they are in good situation. But you can truly see the character of that person when they go through hardship. And then when the hardship is a near-death experience, you can really, truly see the bottom of that person, right? And then the true father, what he saw in the midst of suffering really shows his real character. And then I want to highlight that. True Father Sun Myung Moon, Reverend Sun Myung Moon, exhibited a Christ-like character through all these imprisonment. And Father, throughout his whole life, he had 6 imprisonments. And then we maybe not the month, but we will just read where he was tortured. Can you?
Imprisonment and torture under Japanese imperialism, Gyeonggi-do Police Station, 4 months. Imprisonment and torture, Jeongju Local Prison, North Korea. Pyongyang Daedong Prison, 100 days. Hungnam Concentration Camp. Sadia Moon Prison. Danbury Prison, helicopter crash.
I remember one of my son, when he was like 10 years old, he was like so surprised. Mom, is that true? True Father really went to prison? He was so surprised because in his mind, only criminal goes to, or bad people go to prison, right? And that's like rightfully so. We don't want our son to go to prison, right? But the father's case, going prison is quite different, right? So in the future, when you guys become father or mother, if your children ever ask you about father's imprisonment, I want you guys to be able to explain this quite well. To father, when you see the number 1 prison to number 4th prison, it is done all under the North Korea. So North Korea is the first one. First one was because of the Japanese. First one is in South Korea. I'm sorry about that. It was under Japanese government. So the Japanese was looking for who led the independent movement in Korea in the student side. So they wanted to torture father to find out the name list. So that's why father was imprisoned. And then from the second one to second, third, fourth, it was more like a religious persecution, because North Korea, communist country, do not have the religious freedom. So that's why he was persecuted. And then the number 5th was under South Korea, as he was expanding his religious followers, devotees. And then the South Korea government and then the Ewha University became one, and then persecuted father, saying that he didn't go to army. He didn't serve the army when it was wartime, so he couldn't serve the army. But they kind of accused him for that. But later he was, he released as the innocent. So it was like he was falsely accused, and then he was released as the innocent. So that was the unjustly he was accused. And then the Danbury, we explained that was also the U.S. government, the left-leaning, congressman, and then the groups and the media basically blame him for tax evasion. And father has the World Foundation, and then he's gonna, putting him to the prison with the $8,000 will be a joke. So that is a clearly religious persecution. That is why a lot of Christian ministers actually came out, and then this is unjustly, incarceration of Reverend Moon. That's why a lot of Christian pastors helped at that time, because they saw that as a religious persecution instead of him doing criminal act. So, these pictures, I credit these pictures from to 허경환 회장님, Busan Sanctuary, 허경환 회장님. I brought these pictures from his YouTube channel. And then the father 6 times unjustly imprisoned. And then when we think about the concentration camp, father survived the concentration camp, and then our thinking just stops there, right? It's like, of course, father will survive, and then our thinking just stops there. But the Viktor Frankl, who was locked up in the Nazi concentration camp, gives a very slightly different perspective, but similar experience, because he was actually the Nazi concentration victim around the True Father when True Father went around the time when True Father went to Hungnam prison. So it's like a couple years difference. So he talks about like a Nazi concentration camp was like a living hell, that all inmates were confiscated their human rights and no human dignity, had to watch people die in front of them without going crazy, right? Okay, they can tell that person gonna be dragged out and then die, but today they're laughing with that person, or that they can and then they have to be okay with that. Okay, next day might be me, but they have to be okay with that. And then that kind of not only just the labor itself is difficult, there's a tremendous mind torturing as well. And then the concentration camp survivor usually divide into two different groups. So even they survived from concentration camp, the life is not easy. We think, okay, they were released from concentration camp, they should be all fine, right? They lived the hell, so after they come out, everything should be fine, right? But that's far from the truth. He says one group is like, it's a good group, I guess. A good group practice the gratitude rest of their life, and then they seemingly live the very quiet contemporary life. But the second group is suffer from the flashback of the hell they experienced. So even though they come out, because the flashback and PTSD, they can't carry on the normal life. And then the people show, because they saw the worst side of a human being, what the other person can do to me. Like even person who passed by, that person looks like a normal. The people who were oppressor in the concentration camp looks like a normal person, right? But he can do tremendously evil things to me. And then when the survivor from the concentration camp see the normal people, they just cannot carry on the normal life, because everything they look around that triggers them. So it's a type of PTSD. And then sometimes even though they survived from the concentration camp, they commit suicide. But the True Father character from all this imprisonment, the True Father showed the godly character in the midst of an epitome of suffering and one of the most harsh environment. This is King's recent sermon. He emphasized a lot about the Hungnam prison, how father was tortured 3 times, but he was able to resurrect and then pray for the person who tortured him, and then the person was end up coming back to God, and then he denounced God at once, but he hearing the attacker, hearing True Father praying for him, he was able to come back to God and denouncing communism. This is not just our church talk about it, but also, the True Father's one of the inmate in Hungnam prison. He's not our church brother, but he wrote his autobiography on the road to Seoul. He wrote about True Father, actually. So he was being. So he was on the road to Seoul in the book that Inho Kim wrote. He said he wrote about true fathers, selfishness, loving, serving attitude in the Hungnam concentration camp. So he basically said that true father exhibited saint-like behavior even in the midst of the living hell. And then this testimony is not just in the Hungnam prison. We hear the same testimony and the people being witnessed in Danbury as well. And Second King said he remembers the one brother when he was young. He was like a Italian mafia kind of guy, but he comes often to East Garden, and then I was in the Danbury with the true father, and then the true father witnessed me, and then he used to testify true father, and then how exemplary he was in Danbury. So that really shows what kind of person true father is. When he goes through the bottom of the suffering, true father still was able to exhibit not just taking care of himself, but he actually served other people. So we can see true father is a true character, and then what kind of person he is. Yeah. Also Danbury prison. Before father went to Danbury prison, this is what true father said to brothers and sisters.
I am innocent. I said I have done nothing wrong. I can see the bright light of hope rising from beyond Danbury. Don't cry for me, but cry for America. Love America and pray for America.
And that is the picture true father coming out from the Danbury. True father, while he was in Danbury, he actually sent out letters to the pastor to stop this, to protect the religious freedom. And then Divine Principle, he sent out Divine Principle booklets and DVD to Christian pastors in America to restore a Christian nation. So when I see this 60 imprisonment, I think about the 1 John 3:16. This is how we know what love is. Jesus Christ laid down his life for us. And I believe true father did the same thing through this 7 death and resurrection process. He actually laid down his life for me as a second coming. And true father experienced a near-death experience numerous times in order to deliver the gospel. Most people gave up their mission after near-death experience, but true father didn't. How? True father even wrote a blessing of glory when he was in Hungnam concentration camp, that we can tell that true father overcame fear and struggle by contemplating on the sorrowful heart of God. So when you think about the God's providence, he could not be sad, or he could not focus and pity about his situation. He is willing to help people more, and he's willing to restore just one person. Even in the prison, he tried to reach out to people, and then that was our father. And do you think such a true father had a 6 marriage for his lust? I personally do not think so. I once asked Holy Spirit, and then it was a way to go to a church at Pennsylvania, and I was driving, and then at that time I was preparing the praise worship, and then the song was cross. So I kind of asked your Father, when did you bore the cross? Jesus bore the cross in the Calvary. When did you bore the cross? I heard you carry the 10,000 cross. When did you do it? And then spiritually I asked him, and then the true Father answered me through Holy Spirit right away. He said, I bore those 10,000 cross when I was a Hungnam prison camp, and all those bag of nitrogen fertilizer was the cross. And then he spiritually gave me that answer. And then I remember at that time, I can't explain logically, but I had to stop the car in the middle of this windy road, and I broke down and I cried so much. I sobbed so much, holding the handle of the car, because the Holy Spirit took me over, and then the experience, the Father's voice was so clear and then so vivid, and then I could really feel that Father truly bore the cross. He went to this 6 times imprisonment to save me and then free me from the burden of the cross. So I just wanted to share that experience. So as I get the answer from the Holy Spirit, I pray that you receive the answer regarding this matter. With all these 8 reasons, I came to reasonable conclusion that we should not see 6 Mary Providence in the perspective of we should see 6 Mary Providence in the perspective of a mission of a Messiah for the restoration of God's lineage and establishment of kingship. You know, people of addiction have a pattern. They make any type of excuse and reason to continue their addiction, and then cut out all other opposite opinion, and then an opposite force. However, look at the life of true Father. The 6 imprisonment. If he gave up his mission to spread the complete testimony of people claims, then he will accept 6 Marys and he will reject the 6 imprisonment. Don't you think? But Father was willing to accept the 6 imprisonment as well, the thorny path as well. In 1980s, when American government indicted True Father under the name of tax evasion, True Father was in Korea. So if he doesn't come back to America, then he didn't have to go to prison. Can you see this? But Father chose to come back to America and serve the Danbury prison. He didn't have to accept it. If it was too inconvenient for him, he was just, oh, okay, this is too much for me. I'll just enjoy, I'm sex addict, I'll just enjoy 6 Marys, and then, oh, I don't want to go to thorny path. Then he didn't have to accept it. But because Father has a mission to spread the complete testament, the gospel to people, and in America, he came back to America, and then he served the Danbury prison. So he is willing to accept the hardship, that whatever comes before him as the second advent, to serve God. This is the first picture that I showed in the beginning of the lecture. What do you believe the cross symbolizes? I ask this question again. Do you see this cross as the, meaningless death, meaningless crazy Jewish man's death, who opposed the Roman Empire by self-proclaiming himself as a Messiah? Or do you actually see the cross as the perfect sacrifice of Jesus as the Lamb of God? Just like we see the cross as the symbol of Jesus, the absolute faith toward the Heavenly Father, we should see 6 Mary as the symbol of true Father's absolute faith and obedience toward Heavenly Father. Jewish people up to now believe that Jesus was born out of wedlock by Mary committing adultery with a Roman soldier, and then in Talmud there's even Roman soldier's name is written, and believe that the eternal Jesus is inside. Jesus is eternally boiled inside of boiled poops of human and animals, and then they write down all the animals name too. So it was in that detail that they just detest Jesus, and then they truly see Jesus' crucifixion was a meaningless and craziness. Do we view cross as the most shameful event of Jesus' life, or we see cross as the symbol of Jesus' sacrificial love to save you and me? What is your choice? When we face the challenge in our faith, instead of we openly criticize and condemn and go, I can't understand this and what is this? And instead of we doing that, we should ask the guidance of our Holy Spirit. That posture, that is the posture of a true believer. And I truly believe that our Father will give you an answer just like He did to me. Okay, this is the end of the today's lecture. And then now I can go to the question and answer section. Thank you very much.